Good evening. Welcome back to my magazine. I am Matt, and on YouTube you find me as Ranger Lem. You can subscribe if you like, and on Mal Magazine you can find me as myself. You are watching now the second part of the charcoal drawing of Latchkey and Ladybug, and we're going to get right into it. The story of how I learned to draw in prison. I'm going to continue that. A couple pieces of housekeeping. First of all, what is wrong with my knuckle? I mean, if you look at the last two videos, you'll see my hand, my right arm, is just burned up from fryer grease because I was cooking at KFC at the time. So that's KFC chicken burns. Now I'm looking at this knuckle. Is that a bicycle accident? I don't even know what I did to that knuckle. That is torn up. And right now, as I speak to you, my left hand is broken. And it's in a soft cast. It hasn't even gotten a hard cast on it yet. That's not till Monday. Me and my hands. Also a piece of housekeeping. My head's going to be in the way till about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And then it gets out of the way. So it's just a little bit of thing here. It's the only footage I got of me drawing. So that's what I got. All right, so let's get into this story of how I learned to draw in prison. So I began the last video saying that I didn't really learn to draw in prison. I was always a drawer, even from a little kid. And that's true. Nevertheless, I did learn how to draw in prison. That's also true. And then towards the end of the video, I said something where I said, if you want to learn how to draw, learn to play. It's the same thing. And it absolutely is. But I hadn't quite learned how to play in prison. And that's what I want to talk about today. Art is play. And I have learned to play. And it's an ongoing process. Tomorrow I will learn more about playing. I'm a slow person when it comes to learning. I don't have come to Jesus moments like St. Paul on the road to Damascus. I just have to work on it slowly over time. So now here I am as a midlife crisis 42-year-old man learning how to play. And I hadn't even figured it out in prison. And let me explain how that is. So I did learn how to do all this drawing, this style, this process. It's all prison process because I did lots of it in prison. And I made good money on it in prison. It was a good hustle. But every time I was done with a drawing, I would get sad and depressed. I remember even talking to my folks about it, saying, I think there's a reason why artists go crazy. Because I couldn't figure this out. I was like, every time I draw a picture, I get sad and depressed. And the closest to an answer that I could give myself while I was still in prison is that I was so engrossed in the drawing process that when I lifted my head from a completed drawing and looked around and saw that I was still in prison, reality would strike back. And I'd be like, oh. All right. Now, I hadn't gone through therapy at this time. I wasn't understanding the layers of behavior. That's just what I saw. I didn't really understand or put words to the fact that I was using art to cope. That's what I was doing. I wasn't playing at all. I was coping with the fact that my previous life, was over, because I deserved it to be over. I had screwed it up royally with wicked behavior. And now I'm in the second life. It's too late to start a second life because no one wants to start a second life. You all just want to do it once right. I mean, that's the honest truth. Wow. Second lives, they kind of suck. It takes an ego death. And I hadn't had an ego death yet. And I'm not saying I'm done with ego deaths, but I've had enough to know that life is about playing. And to the best of your ability, spend your day playing. Now, again, let me give you proof that I hadn't figured this out yet in prison. I was still using art to cope. So I got out of prison, and I had all kinds of tools available to me, an art store next door to where I lived. I had it made. So I'm looking for different styles, different arts. I'm thinking about getting into painting. I like painting. I don't do a lot of it, but I think I might do more. And I didn't have the internet yet. I didn't have YouTube or the internet or nothing at home. Parole would not let me have the internet for the first year, which is good. So, but I was allowed to go to the library and use it there. So I was at the library looking up YouTube videos on oil painting portraiture. And I just happened to sit next to this very nice lady who I will soon find out. A very old lady, short, small in stature. I don't know if I want to give both names. Anyways, Janet was her first name. I will stick with Janet. And she must have been watching me before I saw her. She saw me watching those videos. And she leans over to me and she says, quit watching. Just go play. You don't need to train yourself on how to use oil paints. Just get some oil paints and go play. and and I was blown away by what she said. First of all, it made no sense. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know how to use these tools. How can I play if I don't know how to use them? It's funny to laugh at myself. I love change. I hope you've had a lot of change in your life and you can laugh at yourself in the past. It's hard when you go through it, but it's so great on the other side of it. And you just laugh at it like an old war hero laughing about the stories of what happened in the silly war. Well, I couldn't figure out how art was supposed to be played. I was taking it too seriously, and I was trying to figure out all the ins and outs of what kind of tools I need and what kind of stuff to thin out the oil paints and all that. If I'd have just... I worked at a recycling factory for a short period of time, and one of the things I picked up was a purple tube it was a tube of purple oil paint. All I had to do was open that tube and play with it. But my thinking was, I need a full set of colors. I need all the brushes. I need to get the stuff to separate the colors and to make sure it dries right on the paper. Oh my goodness. She was right. Just get out and play. So I've made that point now for 6 minutes. So let's move on. You see this beautiful picture I'm drawing. All these little details of this like electrical box on the side of the building. I like the juxtaposition of big and small. You've got this window, right? Corrugated cardboard. Go back and look at the construction. A radio attached to the back end. I like the juxtaposition of things of different size. So right next to this window that I've developed out of, there's a Q-tip in the middle, and just paper and corrugated cardboard with one of the flat ends removed. Right next to it, I'm working on it just now, the CU. You see that? That is a city utility of Southern Missouri, or Springfield, Missouri. I don't know what the S stands for. It's just a city utility tag. Any kid, if you've ever looked at the box on the back of your house when you've been out playing in the backyard, you see these tags hanging on the utility box. And of course, they're small. I mean, you can fit them in the palm of your hand, but here it is as big as a window. I just like that. I think it's fun to play with. And when we finally get to this drawing today, you're going to see me working on the lady. We'll talk about her too. The young girl, the Latchkey. She's practically as big as the Ladybug in the final drawing. We don't get to the Ladybug yet today. That's the next video. But we'll draw her today. And she's got a button on her waist. And it's a shirt button, but she's got it like a belt buckle. It's big. I like that. I like that play of size. And that's just me playing. So, in some sense, even though I was using art to cope, even in prison, even after prison, I was using art to cope. Even still to this day, I mean, art is a coping mechanism for me. You can just get addicted to any coping mechanism. That's the danger. And then the depression steps in when you realize that you've been relying on it too much. So let me change the subject just a little bit and talk about a runner's high and compare it to an artist's high, because this is an important thing to be aware of. If you get into the mental zone of being able to do art for hours upon hours, you will love it. It will be an escape from the world. It will be your own personal heaven for as long as you are in that zone. And joggers, okay? So joggers will often get addicted to the high that comes after the run. And I was addicted to the high of drawing. It's just not the same thing as playing. You'll burn out in that respect. And I did burn out, okay? So this drawing is actually number 5 or 6 in a series. I'll do a video on it. I think it's 5 or 6 drawings, all in this very similar style. They're very wonderful. All of them were in a phase of coping. And as soon as I finished this drawing, it was the last in the series. This is the last photorealistic picture I drew since around 2018, and it's 2021 now. Now, I've drawn quite a bit with charcoal, and plein air, drawing trees. I love that too. That's good play. But this style, once I didn't want to use art to cope anymore, I kind of gave up on the style, and that's not good. I'm bringing it back. I got a piece I'm working on right now called Follow the White Rabbit, and I'm building the construction for it right now. I'll have to show you that. Okay, down here, you see those circles that aren't yet done yet? They're going to be batteries down there in the corner. Okay, so you got that bolt that I've kind of halfway done. The the bracing of the railing that is pencils, and behind it is batteries. You'll also notice that window I didn't darken. When we get to the second window, I darken it, because I'm talking about the picture now again. The purpose of the message behind Latchkey and Ladybug. Someone's inside there still. Now, that's my interpretation. I like to leave my art open to your interpretation, too. We're going to get to that when we get to the Latchkey herself. She looks kind of like a boy, and that's interpretation. It's cool. It's actually kind of interesting. Nevertheless, here we got a window that the light is still on. And some people might think that the Latchkey, the girl, has left and left the light on. But in my interpretation, there's someone else inside that cabin still. And he's got batteries stacked like cordwood over here in the corner. See, I'm working on them right now. Yeah, that RA, I believe, was a radon. I don't know what they call batteries anymore. But all those batteries are stacked like cordwood in the corner right there of his house, because that's his fuel. Or whoever's in there. I say he, sure. Okay, so there's a guy in there, and his fuel is batteries. But the Latchkey's going to find that her fuel is a ladybug. All she has to do is go outside and enjoy life, and it will be sufficient fuel for her. Now, when I was using art to cope, I was using my art like batteries. And eventually it ran out. And eventually I burned myself out. And eventually I had to stop this style of drawing, and I haven't picked it back up again. But I'm so looking forward to doing it again. Watching these videos reminds me how much play there is in art. And I look forward to going back to this now with the realization that art is play, and doing a drawing like this. I'll bet it'll be so much more healthier for me than treating art as a coping technique. I'll explain that and get into it as I experience it. We'll call that a theory, and we'll see what happens when I draw Follow the White Rabbit. But I still got to construct it, and I broke my hand, so it's just a little bit of a break right now. At any rate, this picture, the corrugated cardboard, I love the shadows on it. It turned out really well, and I got 2 of those city utility of probably Springfield, Missouri. That's where I live. Hello. Shout out to all y'all Springfielders. You factory towners. Anyways, it's a beautiful spot here in the Ozarks. I love it. I'm going to go out to the lake tonight and have a good time. So, art. Don't use it to cope. To the best of your ability, use it to play. And thank the Lord for the coping that He gives you. At the same time, sometimes you just got to deal with the problems in your life. And I don't have a lot of wisdom on that, because I'm still not doing that right. My unpaid taxes on May, what day is today? May 22nd? Oh my goodness. Alright, yeah, problem solving. So I need to do work on that. I do like to escape. I like to get into art and escape. And there is a lot of life you really can't escape. You don't have to deal with a lot of life. You can just do your own thing. To a degree. But I would like to incorporate art into my life, not as something I only do hidden away like an indoor cat in my cabin, coping with the fact that the world is crazy. I would just like to do art as a play, and play as often as I can. So let's talk about these tools again. I brought up how all these tools that I'm using are rolled up playing cards, taped, and you'll also notice that they have these color-coded pencil rubber tube things on them. Got them from the Dollar Tree. Plastic thing that I put on them. I saw that they were colored, and I thought that would work great for me because I can color code my pencils. I am using a B, a 2B, a 4B, a 6B. Wolf's Carbon pencils. And I thought it would be nice to color code them. And those letters, if you don't know art terms for pencils, it just means hardness. So the softer a pen, the darker it is. That window was done with a very soft pen, probably a 6B. The shadowing, sometimes it's just done with a softer pen, or sometimes it's done with a smudging tip that's just got like old charcoal left in the tip of the paper. But I made all of my tubes the same because it's really good to get your hands used to a similar tool. Again, pencil extenders are nice because as your pencil shortens, your hand's going to be holding it different. And if you look in this video, you'll notice, if you follow my hand, you'll see that it's holding the pencils and tools in different ways at different times. My folks got me a subscription to the magazine Drawing. That's what it was called. Drawing magazine, while I was in county jail. And one of the articles was on, oh, here I'm starting the latchkey. Watch this. I got some more to say about this in a minute. But one of the things that they told me in this magazine that I got, it was an article, 13 different ways to hold a pencil. And I said, what? 13 ways to hold a pencil? That's insane. And then I read the article and realized I was already doing some of them. And then I learned more. And you'll see in this way that you get one charcoal tool held 13 different ways, does 13 different things. You just play and learn. I didn't study all 13 hand holdings to hold things differently as I'm working. I'm just holding it the way it works. But I did read the article to educate myself, to know that this is how artists work, to know that it's okay to have different hand holds, and that you can get different features of the pen's tip to work with a different handhold. Some handholds get the tip, some get the side. All right, so enough of that. But if you build your tools all similar, like a card rolled up, when you go from one pencil to another pencil, you're not changing you still have the same style, shape, tool in your hand. Does that make sense? All right, now, let's talk about this latchkey. Her face, you're going to see, if you watch closely, you're going to see an artist trying to figure out a problem. And that's the stage right nostril. All right, so her left nostril, the one above her heart, but right next to my hand, stage right. I messed it up. And you're going to see, if you keep watching, if you want to, it's curious and it's interesting, me fixing it. Now, technically, that nostril is off by about 1/3 of a millimeter. It's so tiny. But it was just enough to make it, when my brain takes that small head about the size of a quarter, because you're looking at it bigger than it actually is in this picture. I mean, put your hand up to mine. My hand in this video is bigger than your hand in real life. That head is small, and it's about the size of a quarter. And when my brain takes that head the size of a quarter and magnifies it up to the real size of a human head, that minute 1/2 of a millimeter problem with her right nostril, stage right, well, it just didn't work in my head. So I had to go in there and fix it by like a fraction of a millimeter. And you're just going to watch, if you watch that one particular spot, you'll see me fixing that nostril for quite a bit. Nevertheless, she turned out beautifully. And, okay, so let's talk about her. When I shared this photo with friends and family, some people thought that the kid was a boy. You'll see in the left, the source photo showing up. I think that's an interesting interpretation. There is some autobiography going on here. Obviously, I consider myself the latchkey, getting out of the electrical connections of everything, looking at the ladybug, figuring stuff out, going to the lake tonight. I mean, gotta get out. Gotta get out. So, for people to see this little child as if it is a boy, well, androgyny is good for the interpretation, because you can see whoever you want in this child. This child, in the original photo, is a female, and she's wearing female clothing, but I dressed up the clay model, and she's wearing the clothing of the clay model. Plus, you can see here I've got a chain in my fingers. That wasn't on the clay model. I'm just drawing it from my hand there. And this button I'm about ready to start on her belt buckle. It's all tiny clothing. She almost kind of looks like Luke Skywalker. There's a little bit of, probably some of my childhood showing up there in the design of the clothing. She looks just like Luke Skywalker in the clothing I made for her. And her lightsaber on a chain is her key to the front door. She can go wherever she wants. And she wants to go look at a ladybug. Okay. So, yeah, the clothing kind of makes her androgynous. The fact that you can't see her long hair, she does kind of look like a boy, and that's okay. I think it opens her up to interpretation. I'm kind of glad that some people thought she was a boy, because it shows that you can interpret her either way. No one has ever said the kid is ugly or something like that. So that, whatever. All right. So you can, again, put myself into that kid as the one going out. It's an autobiographical picture. I am going to look for the ladybug. Oh, and what else did I learn in prison? This is something else I learned that's important. Okay, so before I even took the picture of the construction out in the woods, which you can see a bunch of those photos at the end of the construction video, before I did that, I'd already gone online to look for this photo of this child. So in prison, I had a book by Ansel Adams. My folks sent it to me in the mail. Beautiful book. Had all these black and white photographs that Ansel Adams had taken. And I was drawing from them and practicing from them. And I was also doing portraiture for other people in prison. And I came up with this idea. I said, you know what, man, the background of these portraits is kind of weird. You're in the backyard, there's a chair sitting over in the corner. I can draw this picture exactly as you want it. Or I can take your person out of this background in a backyard and put them into the forests of Yosemite National Park. I've got this book, and I'd let people look through it, and they'd pick a background. And I said, the thing that's important is that you really want to pick a background taken at the exact same angle as your family members, okay? So if someone's taken a picture of your family member from about 8 feet above their head, and then Ansel Adams took a picture of the mountain from about 4 feet off the ground on a tripod, you can't put those two pictures together. You'll have the tops of someone's heads and the bottoms of someone's feet. It just doesn't work. So I found the picture first of this little girl, and then I went and took the picture. And I made sure that I matched her up with the clay statue that I had put onto the stone path. And I made sure that I had the right perspective for each, that I matched it. And that's important. So if you want to do this type of photoshopping where you mix different sources into one final drawing, make sure that they're taken from the same angle so your perspectives aren't all off. And okay, so that's what I learned in prison from doing all them portraitures. Get your perspectives to match. And this rock, I love this rock I'm about to work on. So first I have to outline the foreground. That's what I'm doing there. That's all going to remain white for a minute. But look at this rock. It just comes to life. And at first it just looks scribbly, and then it comes to life. And it's, again, that process of those three tools: my adders, my smudgers, and my subtractors. Pencils being adders, erasers being subtractors, and the paper and fingers and everything else being the smudgers. So I've got some of these little flowers. It's a type of clover or heather, I don't know, underbrush spring flowering, something or other in the grass. You'll see I have to outline them and get around them. That's kind of difficult, but once I get this rock done, it just turns out fantastic. And one of the reasons why I think this rock turned out so fantastic is that I had finally figured out the layering process too. I mentioned last video too how in prison I used to try and get photorealistic in 1 square inch and then move on to the next square inch, the next square inch. I didn't say square inches in the last video, but that's what I was saying, where I would just try and do it in one spot, small spot first, and I'd lose the forest for the trees. Here, I'm working on the whole rock all at once, and at first it's just layering and scribbling. Right here, it don't even look like much, but it will become much after quite a bit of work. And it's just going to become beautiful. So let me change the subject again and talk about who are you drawing for? In prison, I did a lot of commissions. Made a lot of stamps, made a lot of soups, coffee, cigarettes. I made everything I need. Big pizzas, nachos. I can make all kinds of stuff. People would park their TV in my cell while I draw. Not that I used it much, but I mean, I had politics. Okay, that's a lie. I used the TV. I followed politics. I hadn't yet woken up. But my art was a gift that God gave to me, and it paid out in dividends while I was in prison. And I thank the Lord for that. Still, I want to talk about who are you drawing for. So I've heard it said of work, that there's 3 layers of work. You can work for the dollar, you can work for yourself, and you can work for God. And I think it's about the same with art too. Anyone who's gifted in art, you may find yourself thinking, maybe I should go through this whole nonsense college process and become a graphic designer. Which, I mean, I'm trying to avoid curse words here, guys. If you're a graphic designer, you're basically someone else's. I mean, look, if you like that kind of sort of thing, you can serve people well as a graphic designer, but a lot of times you're just drawing what other people tell you. And if you're okay with that, then be okay with it. I personally am not okay with that. It's just my thing. I'm not trying to dictate how you should do your thing. I just have to do my own thing. That's how I am. And maybe it's still that coping coming in. Maybe if I played more, I could work more. I don't know. I'm telling you where I'm at right now. Now, this drawing, Follow the White Rabbit, that I'm working on, building the construction for, it is a commission, but I took it because the idea was so great. It was such a fantastic idea. I loved it, and it gave me so much freedom. I was able to do it how I wanted to, because his idea, I built on and took it and made it my own. So I'm doing another piece, which we'll get into eventually, and it is a commission, but I really like the idea. Sometimes commissions, you just don't really like the idea. It's someone's pet, someone's kid, and you're like, well, I've learned how to draw faces already. Now it's just busy work. All work can be busy work. All skills can be used for busy work. Even drawing for yourself can become busy work. Like if you make art an experiment, and I do that. I didn't know what this rock would look like until I started it. It was an experiment to figure out, and it's successful. But then, do you want to draw 50 rocks, or have you figured out what the rock looks like just by one drawing? All right, now we're down to the final end here. Who are you drawing for? Money, yourself, or for God? You definitely got to draw for God. And I'll talk maybe more about that next time, because we are getting down to the last little bits here. You can see the source picture and how she turned out. Boy, what a beautiful drawing. Yeah, well, we'll continue talking about this then in the next one. Peace out. And if you like it, subscribe. All right. Bye.